Hi, everyone. It's Steve Politi from NJ Advanced Media. This week's Rutgers Rant is brought to you by the New Brunswick Development Corporation. A big thank you to our sponsor and to all of our listeners for the continued support. Now let's get to the show.
From NJ.com and the Star Ledger, welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights. With your host, Steve Politi, and Rutgers insiders Keith Sargent and James Cratch. Let's start shopping.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Rutgers Rant. Steve Politi here, Cratch Sarge. As always, I got to tell you guys, if you know what to expect from this team on a week-to-week basis, congratulations, because I have lost the script here to this season. It's hard to fathom that the team we saw in Piscataway getting its doors blown off by Wisconsin, then went to Indiana and had its, by far, its most convincing Big Ten victory. I mean, it's not even close if you look at the numbers. It's just amazing. And I get it. Believe me, I understand. Wisconsin, a little bit better than Indiana. I get it. But this was an entirely different team, fellas. I mean, you know, 6 turnovers, taking advantage of your opportunities, creativity on offense. It was really an impressive performance. And especially given what happened the week before, Cratch, for that team to bounce back the way it did, that's a credit to the coaches.
No doubt. And not only that, but to bounce back when all 3 of your starting linebackers are out. Like how many times in history does that even happen, that you lose all 3 of your linebackers and then go win by 35 points on the road? Just a tremendous effort for Rutgers. I think you kind of saw the value of what they can do when they play from ahead, when they can kind of dictate how they wanted the game to unfold. Indiana's bad. I was really surprised. They were like worse than I thought they were going to be. But that's really good news for Rutgers, because as I've said many times before, step 1 on the road to Pasadena for the Scarlet Knights is to be better than the Indiana Hoosiers.
They are clearly there, Sarge, by a long, long way. What impressed you the most from this one, from your vantage point?
I mean, just the turnovers are, the 2 of them were fluky. McCulley, just fumbled the handoff. I mean, they're opportunistic. But what probably impressed me the most, and is how efficient they were on offense. I mean, the numbers were not pretty, but they Noah Vedra, I asked him after the game, and he said, the whole emphasis was basically to do our best to put the ball in the end zone, but also he conceded, like, just don't get the ball away. That was the type of game. I mean, it was cold, it was dreary, it was windy. The type of game, the only way Rutgers was going to lose that game at that point was if they're going to throw the ball all over the field and commit turnovers. Noah Vedra, we've talked about before. There's been a few games where he's been a little bit of turnover prone, but for the most part, once they started getting those turnovers, on defense, that you had a quarterback that you could trust was not going to give the ball away.
Right. And you love the game that Sean Gleason called. Pacheco, he looked like the workhorse back we thought he was going to be. He wasn't always pretty, but game, had a really solid game. And then, the little bit of razzle dazzle, throw, that get Raekwon O'Neal the ball, get him involved, get him in the end zone. He's a weapon. It was impressive to see, and they took the lead. And then what I liked about it, they finished this one. I mean, it could have been an instance where Indiana would have scored late in the game, could have cut this margin into it, but then they had guys walk-ons like Joe Lasardi, walk-on safety from Summit coming up and making a big play near the end. Cratch, there were a lot of things defensively I liked. Is that linebacker combination the best answer for this team?
It's a good question, because I think that we've seen this year sometimes that definitely Fogg, 03 to some point, like they're like old school thumpers, and the game is kind of going away from that. And you need those guys to defend Illinois, or you need those guys to defend Wisconsin, although Rutgers didn't do much defending against Wisconsin. But when you get a matchup like Indiana, where they're going to try to spread you out, they're going to try to attack the angles, you need a guy like Tyreen Powell who's dynamic, who can make plays in space. I thought Drew Singleton played extremely well. I think Drew Singleton's a guy who I think a lot of fans had unrealistic expectations for him when he transferred in, based on the recruiting stars he had and everything when he went to Michigan. But he's turned to a really valuable, serviceable linebacker that can step in a pinch, as we saw him on Saturday. It was a good look for them. I mean, I think the 4-2-5 look is something they've done a lot of this year. I think it's something that they have the personnel for.
All right. So the major takeaway, of course, the thing that midway through the first quarter, when I saw that this game was going, I tweeted, this has a Christmas in Detroit kind of feel to it, this first quarter. Bowl games, guys, it certainly looks like there'll be a ticket punched for some December trip. Kratch, you have now broken it down in every way imaginable here. You've looked at all of the options. Give me your most likely scenario, and give me a scenario the fans aren't talking about now.
So most likely scenario, I would say, is Pinstripe Bowl or Quick Lane Bowl. I think Pinstripe Bowl is more likely. Here's why. The Big Ten has 9 bowl tie-ins, counting the Rose Bowl. Now, obviously, if Ohio State wins the Big Ten title, wins out, they're probably going to go to the playoff. The Big Ten would then send their second team to the Rose Bowl. Right now, it's a coin toss between Michigan State and Michigan. The way the league is, the way the national landscape is kind of shaping up, I think there's a very good chance the Big Ten sends a third team to the New Year's Six, to the Peach Bowl or the Fiesta Bowl. That happens. I think right now it would probably be Michigan and Michigan State would go. I think Wisconsin has an outside shot to sneak in potentially if they win out and play really well against Ohio State. Iowa, not as much, but Iowa is 8-2. So if they're 10-2 and then they're 10-3 and they put themselves well in the Big Ten title game, maybe they have a chance to sneak in there too, depending on if Michigan or Michigan State trips up somewhere else in addition to the Michigan Ohio State game. But if you're a Rutgers fan, you want that, because if you get 3 teams in the New Year's Six, everybody else in the Big Ten is going to move up a spot. And then the Quick Lane Bowl is at the bottom, so you're going to avoid Detroit. But the downside to that is, for some Rutgers fans, is you're pretty much going to be locked into the Pinstripe Bowl. Maybe the Guaranteed Rate Bowl in Phoenix, which used to be the Insight Bowl, obviously where Rutgers went in 2005. That is also a possibility. The one thing that I don't think people are really kind of paying attention to, I think we'll discuss this later in True and False, is the whole idea of Rutgers being 5-7 and going to a bowl game is very, very real, based on all the numbers I've crunched around the country. The details of how that happens this year are a little hazy. Post-COVID, there's a couple of moving pieces, but I do think there's a possibility that Rutgers has already clinched the bowl bid as we sit here now at 5-5.
I got to tell you, Sarge, having done the Pinstripe Bowl a couple of times, I don't think that's a bad option for this team right now. I mean, you get a good opponent, you get it close to home, you get a full stadium. I think the fans are going to travel that game without question. I mean, I think that's, I know I get it. Bronx in December is not anyone's favorite thing, but you've been to that bowl a couple of times. You could do a lot worse considering where this program is right now.
Yeah, it was stale in 2011. I mean, can you imagine back then, like, fans were like kind of just tired of the mid-tier, so-called mid-tier bowls, and in 2011, they went, and then 2013, 2 out of 3 years, and fans were just like kind of ho-hum. Also, keep in mind they also had played Army in the regular season, there, so they had played at Yankee Stadium 3 times. It wasn't new, but now. Think about it. It's been, not since 2013 when they played there. I agree with you. I think, in this day of age with the economy the way it is, and let's face it. I mean, I don't think they would get more than 5,000, 6,000 fans traveling to Phoenix. It's not 2005 like it was, or Quick Lane. They might get 3,000, 4,000 fans. So, you'll get a good crowd. You'll be able to it's all Greg Schiano cares about at this point is to get those 15 practices or so and be able to kind of develop his team, and then be able to market it. So I mean, I think the program would be happy, and certainly the fans I think would be satisfied as well.
All right, lots to dive into here with this. Let's go right to True or False. What do you say, fellas? You know how it works. I've only got a few topics, but one of them we were to discuss at length. This Kratch hinted at, so let's go. True or false? Keontae Hamilton is the next great defensive lineman for Rutgers. Kratch, true or false?
True. I think Keontae Hamilton might be the next great Rutgers athletic superstar.
Right. Sarge, true or false?
I mean, Greg Schiano is putting him in the College Football Hall of Fame. Is every single time he talks about him. I mean, it's he's stopping short of saying, "Hey, Scott, make plans at heavyweight."
Well, that's where it's going. Kratch is still holding on hope that this kid's going to be wrestling.
Look, here's the thing.
I have
talked to so many people on the record, behind the scenes, everyone is saying right now, look, I'm skeptical too. Everyone is saying right now he is going to be on the mat a week after football season.
We're breaking the true false rule. He'll wrestle this year. It'll be great headlines, but coaches are so particular about spring football. I saw it with Juwan Harris, with Chris Ash. They want him there for spring football. If he's as good as Greg Schiano is saying, and we have all the evidence in the world, the fact that he's playing, my thinking is it's going to be one and done.
Greg is going to dive into in sport track and get the contracts for the top 10 paid defensive ends in the NFL and go, okay, I think you want to wrestle, or let's look what some of these guys are making on the next level, and that's going to be it. But no, I believe he will wrestle this year, but it's hard to imagine after that. All right. True or false? Gavin Wimsatt isn't playing nearly enough. Correct. True or false? We should see more Wimsatt.
True. I was a little confused with the utilization of Gavin at Indiana.
Sarge, true or false?
I was absolutely confused, but in that type of game, you cannot have turnovers, and in that game, I was confused by when they put him in, but he should not have been playing over Noah Vedral in that game.
No, I agree with that, but also I say true as well. I would have liked to see him a little sooner. True or false? Rutgers' best offensive weapon, Raekwon O'Neal, got the 2 plays called for him, 2 touchdowns, 5.5 yards per average, and that's not even counting the over-the-head lateral that he threw last season on the kitchen sink play at the end of the game. Cratch, do we need to get more Raekwon Hamilton into this offense? Is that what we're missing?
Raekwon O'Neal. You know what? I will say true. Like he's very nimble, and obviously you can't do too much of this stuff. But I was thinking there probably are a couple more creative ways they could utilize him. They could put him in the backfield on short yardage. I'd love to see them put him in the backfield with Johnny Langan on a 4th and 1. That would be kind of interesting. This, if he was a up back or something like that. So I'll say true.
Man, we are breaking the true false rule. This starting to actually sound like card sharks, where you give the answer and then give a long-winded explanation.
Don't tease me with card sharks, Sarge. Don't tease me with card sharks.
The answer is
put it on right now.
The answer is true. Put him at tight end is the answer.
And we asked 100 sports writers, should they move Raekwon O'Neal to tight end? I'm going to go with 37 sports. That's a Card Sharks reference. We're going to lose a lot of listeners over that. All right. True or false? Rutgers will go bowling at 5-7. Cratch, true or false?
True.
Oh, my God. Sarge, true or false?
Man, Greg Schiano is going to hate you for this, Cratch, because the answer is true, but he's going to hate you for bringing it up.
Oh my God, I got to go false just on principle there. All right, next one, true or false? Rutgers should turn down a bowl bid at 5-7. Cratch, true or false?
False. It's a TV show. Just have fun.
Sarge?
Also, you need the development, for the young kids and just the exposure. False.
I'm going to say false only because, as we're going to discuss in a minute, there are some good locations here. So I'm going to say false for that purpose only. But 5-7 teams should not be in bowls. All right, true or false? It's not too early to seriously worry about the Rutgers basketball team. Cratch, you worried? True or false?
False. I'm not worried.
Sarge, true or false?
False.
All right, I'm going to say true just for the sake of discussion, and we'll dive into that. But first, I want to go to the bowling situation. All right, so Jerry Palm had Rutgers at 5-7 in a bowl game. The Cure Bowl, which I had not heard of until that very moment, in Tampa on December 17th. So, Orlando? Is it Orlando? Okay, Orlando, even better. Yeah. Get the whole family down there, do a couple days at Disney World. Give me the 5-7 scenario, Cratch. Why is this as likely as you think it is?
So there's 41 bowl games this year, counting the 2 national semifinals. I mean, there's 82 bowl spots. We've got 60 teams that are bowl eligible now. I went through the entire country last night. I could only come up with 14 more teams that I am, guaranteed, I think, to be bowl eligible. So even if you have a couple of upsets, you're still talking about 6 to 8, potentially 4 to 8 open spots where they're going to have to take a 5-7 team. And in the past, it's gone in pecking order by APR score. If you go to the APR scores, they haven't published APR scores since 2018-19. 19-20 never got published because of the pandemic. And then the NCAA announced this kind of 2-year moratorium on making the scores available publicly or using them because they want to kind of evaluate how they might evolve APR moving forward. So in that sense, Rutgers would be in that group. Their APR score wasn't great in 18-19, but it was high enough up the board because you kind of have to count out, okay, what teams are going to be 5-7. Also remember that the Pac-12 does not allow their 5-7 teams to go to a bowl game. So you got to take the Pac-12, like if off the top of my head, like Washington State might be ahead of Rutgers in the APR, but if they go 5-7, they're not going to be able to go to one, stuff like that. So yeah, I think you were definitely going to have 5-7 teams in bowls. I think Rutgers would be high up on the board. Where it gets interesting is if Rutgers is 5-7 and they go to a bowl game, they could go to a Big Ten contracted bowl, like they could go to the Pinstripe Bowl or go to the Quick Lane Bowl, or they could end up being like this filling any holes you have. And in some situations, that means going to a far-flung bowl that's kind of early in the year and supposed to be for like a group of 5. So Jerry Palm had them in the Cure Bowl. The Bahamas Bowl on December 17th could be an option. You could.
Hello.
All of these games could be. The other thing too, to get back to the 5-7 talk is, it's entirely possible, not realistic, that Rutgers finishes 6-6, beats Maryland, or they beat, they split the next 2 games. Illinois is 4-6. They play Northwestern at the end of the year. Illinois beats Northwestern. They're 5-7. They get a bowl bid. But since Illinois beat Rutgers, the Big Ten could then likely give Illinois preference in the bowl selection process, even though they have a worse record than Rutgers because they won the head-to-head game. So that could also become a factor where like a team like Rutgers could be in position to go to the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, but they get pushed down to the Pinstripe or the Quick Lane because Illinois is 5-7 and jumps them.
Check me if I'm wrong. Didn't Rutgers beat Illinois? I know it's been a few weeks, but...
Oh, man. I'm sorry. You know what? I can't believe that. I meant Northwestern. Northwestern.
I'm sorry. Well, I knew what you meant. Yes.
I meant Northwestern. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Poorly produced by me. I don't have the energy to edit that out. Yeah, that's what I meant. Northwestern. And look, it'd be difficult. I think they had to beat Iowa this week, and they have to beat Illinois in the season finale. Yeah. But if Northwestern were to get to 5-7, they could potentially move.
Right. That's a lot of crazy. One of you guys should just be great. This would be a great way to start off the press conference today. One of you guys should sneak in there. And Greg, have you considered going to a bowl at 5-7? We see what Schiano says. That would be hilarious. But Sarge, I mean, do you think they would? Would there be a debate inside the athletic department to accept one at 5-7, or are they like, go, we're going?
No. So there was some debate over last year at 3-6. If you remember, they were letting everyone go to bowl games last year. So basically, there was some debate. If Rutgers was to be offered, would they have accepted one? Last year was different. Everyone was on fumes last year, with the COVID year. So they were not going to accept a bowl bid at 3-6. They just wanted the season end. This is different. Now, 5-7, I think inside the program, they would be like, well, you're getting all that developmental practice, not for the seniors at that point, but for all those true freshmen and sophomores, Gavin Wimsatt. So you're getting all those. It's like an extra spring practice is what Greg Schiano always calls that. So obviously he's going to want that. And then obviously, look, if there's other 5-7 teams doing it, you could justify and say, hey, we did enough and we improved and absolutely. And to be able to, get off the schneid and snap that bowl streak. Remember, guys, Oregon State, Rutgers, and Kansas are the 3 Power 5 programs with the longest bowl droughts, which is hard to believe. But so I think they're going to want to get back there. Year 2 in Greg Schiano, a bowl game would be an achievement.
The one kind of negative, I think, to the 5-7 path, while I would love to go to Disney, with everyone and go to the Cure Bowl, that game's on December 17th. Rutgers might not get invited until December 4th. At that point, you're not really getting much bang for your buck in terms of development. So I could see that. I could see there being a conversation about that just because, what's the point? Also last year, remember, the big issue was the team was just so physically beaten up. Like it was, such a quick turnaround. But if you go to a bowl that's December 28th, 29th, 30th, whatever, 27th, you've got time to kind of get your practices in and heal up a little bit.
For me, I think this is really simple. All right. 5-7, Detroit, 2 days after Christmas. That is just a travesty that you shouldn't do. 5-7, Bahamas the week before Christmas. I think it's definitely it's just a TV show, right, Sarge? They should absolutely accept Bahamas, Orlando, Las Vegas. Absolutely.
The only question is how many of the NJ.com reporters are we going to send? Are we going to send our Giants and Jets beat reporters, our Yankees? Our editors are going to go. It's going to be a complete. Everyone's going to get on board and have to cover that. So, Rutgers is going to get a ton of press from NJ.com.
Yeah, I heard something bad about your passport. That's all I'm going to say. If your passport's not ready, that's a shame, Sarge. You should have taken care of that.
Let's just run through some of the bowls, if there was a surprise one. Bahamas, we've discussed. Boca Raton Bowl, not bad.
Okay, yes.
New Mexico Bowl,
Absolutely. I've never been there. That's one of 4 states I've never been to. Thumbs up, New Mexico Bowl. Yes.
Independence Bowl.
No thanks.
When I was in South Carolina, they used to threaten schools in the SEC, oh, you want to cheat? Well, we're gonna make sure you go to the Independence Bowl sometime.
When it was the Poulan Weed Eater Independence Bowl, I might have said yes to that, but now I can't in good conscience.
The Lending Tree Bowl at Lad Peebles Stadium in Mobile, Alabama, that's just...
Ooh, no, hard no.
It'd be fun to go to the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl, but I don't think Rutgers could get in there. Myrtle Beach Bowl, you're probably paying Coastal Carolina in their own stadium. That would be
still. Wow, what is this got to be chilly in December in Myrtle Beach?
Yeah,
guessing, right. Yeah.
Famous Idaho Potato Bowl in Boise. Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
you need a passport to get to Idaho, Sarge? Can you get to that one?
I think I've never been to Idaho, though.
The crazy thing is they're still playing the Hawaii Bowl in Hawaii this year, which surprised me.
What is the Hawaii Bowl tie-in? Who are they?
I think it's it might be a
Pac-12. Pac-12 ACC?
I think it might be a Mountain West, Conference USA or something. Hawaii, I think, is 4-7. So if they win their last 2 games, I think that they'll I think Hawaii, if they're 6-7, they get to go. They have an automatic waiver to go to a bowl game, and then they just play in the Hawaii Bowl because that's 50% of the problems figured out like that.
All right. Okay. Well, again, at 80% of those locations sound pretty good to me at 5-7. So let's book that. All right. Shifting gears to basketball. Needed overtime to slay mighty Lehigh. Only 48 points against Merrimack. We were there, Sarge, for the opener against Lehigh. You can shrug it off against, first time in front of a crowd. Just one of those games. Things don't break your way. Missed a lot of shots. Overall, though, I will say that there were some things that concern me. This is still a poor shooting team. Paul Mulcahy at the point guard wasn't the big, team sharing chemistry thing I thought I was going to be. And they're playing down to the level of their competition, which is never a good sign. So why are you not concerned?
The opener, they had, like you said, so many open shots, and those shots are going to fall. I thought maybe jitters, first time playing in front of the RAC crowd in a year and a half. I thought that might have been an issue. Now, the Merrimack game, which we were not there, obviously we read all the coverage, and you could just look at the box score. They were trailing at halftime. They had 16 points at halftime. So that was a rock fight against a team that shouldn't be a rock fight against. So that concerned me a little bit more than the opener. I guess if there's if you're really going to break down the issues with this team right now, I think Cliff, he's played really well, still a walking foul magnet. And, that's going to be an issue because I don't know if they have a lot of depth back there. I also don't know if they have a point guard or just a playmaker. All the things that we talked about with Jacob Young being able to kind of, last 5 seconds on the shot clock and make something happen. I don't know if they have that.
So they don't have that.
Yeah. No, that would be the issue where having a guard who can actually break things down. When shot clocks, when all hell is breaking loose, I think that is going to be something to keep an eye on.
All right, guys, great job on True and False, Card Shark style. I love it. Maybe we should stick with that format. All right, insider questions. Thanks to everyone for subscribing to Rutgers Insider, the tech service. We've enjoyed the interaction, and your questions are great. All right, so this is a good one from David. The excitement meter is starting to rise in the football season. Here's the question. Assuming Rutgers is unable to pull off the signature win in State College, what do you guys expect will be the line for the Maryland game? We will still likely be underdogs to the Terps, right? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, home game. I mean, Rutgers hasn't played well at home. I'm thinking that might be a pick'em. Cratch. What are you putting on the line?
I would think so. Probably a pick'em. I think Maryland's
2 or 3 points.
Maryland's kind of in their annual swoon. So yeah, I think that will be a pick'em.
Who does Maryland have next weekend?
Michigan.
Okay, so they will. This is likely to be 5-6 versus 5-6. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is likely to be bowl before the bowl. Bowl
before the bowl. All right.
Before the bowl.
All right. Here's one from K Fine. Do you guys see K Fine out there in Indiana?
We did not see him, but I guess he saw us. He had like a photo. Like I guess he was sitting under the press box, and he got an angle of us. Yeah.
You're big time K Fine. You couldn't take that elevator, the 1912 elevator in Indiana. Go say hi to Kevin. Well, okay. All right. That's fine. Here's this question: if you were able to add only one 4-star immediate impact player on this team right now, someone who can come in, plug in, play right where do I play well, what position would you add? I love this question. It's a good one.
I love the question. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different possibilities. I mean, the easy one is left tackle. What are you gonna say, Sarge?
Running back.
Running back.
They're going to more than likely lose Pacheco. So,
I think he meant for this team right now. Okay.
Oh, right now.
Yeah, that's what I got. Maybe I can see the future. All right, running back for the future. But what about right now? Next week?
Yeah, got to go to the offensive line. Probably probably one of those guard spots because that's where they've been mixing and matching. I know it's not sexy to say, oh, you got to force, but it's going to help. So yeah, I would say one of those guard spots.
Give me a game-wrecking defensive end pass rusher. Yeah. That's what you need. You need a guy who just can't be blocked, who blows up game plans, who's a strip sack machine.
Yeah, no, that's hard to argue with.
They haven't had that in a long time. Maybe Westerman was the last one.
How many of those in college?
Loco Teray during that 1 year probably would be the last one.
All right, here's a good one. A big picture question. Does Rutgers need to win another game to show progress versus last year? They had 3 last year, and putting aside Temple and Delaware, they have 3 this year. I was thinking about that. It kind of hinted that in my column. I thought 5 wins for me was the level that Greg Schiano could sell to recruits and put out there and say, hey, look, we took a step forward. Not a big step forward, but certainly a step forward. They're there now. So I think these next 2 for me are gravy. Do you guys disagree?
Hey, Rutgers Rant listeners, it's Steve Politi from NJ Advanced Media. We appreciate you supporting this podcast and the sponsors who help us continue doing it. This week's podcast is brought to you by the New Brunswick Development Corporation. If you listen to this show, you love Rutgers. And if you love Rutgers, you know the positive impact that DevCo has made on the campus and its community. We thank the New Brunswick Development Corporation for its continued support and for helping make this podcast possible. Now back to the show.
That they need more to do more?
I think I agree with you that it's gravy. The one thing in terms of perception I do wonder about is, and I was Sarge. I think I said this to Sarge when we were driving back from Bloomington the other day.
The most boring drive ever. Well, no, Illinois' the most boring drive, but that Bloomington.
Wait, how about next week's drive? Come on, get good.
They're all bad.
No, here's the thing. There are some there was some wicked turns.
It was rough.
Dark that were not. It was rough. We basically I was telling Sarge, I gave them the Maryland win easier than I gave them the Delaware win in the preseason.
Yeah, wow.
And I'm just wondering if we've just written Maryland, that's a win, that's a win, that's a win. No doubt in anyone's mind. And I get why, all the reasons why. Last year they won. They're much better coached, everything. But Maryland's got speed. Yep. And I just wonder if we're going to get to the season finale and we're like, oh, that's right. Maryland's got a bunch of fast guys that Rutgers really can't hold up with defensively. And the whole thing.
They've got a quarterback
there. I think that would
be.
They got a quarterback. So I think that's the thing, and we have to remember last year, the quarterback didn't play and the best defensive player didn't play because of COVID. So that's the one thing I will say is that I think 5 wins is more than enough. They've shown progress. But if they're 5-7 and there's a deflating loss to Maryland at the end, that could be a little bit tricky. Nothing they can't overcome, but it would put a little bit of a stain on the whole.
Art, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to read your columns post game after, if they were to lose those two games and give us a 30,000 feet. It was gravy. You're not going to be looking. They have the opportunity. This is the reason why Greg Schiano, if he had his druthers, none of us would write or talk about it until after the season. That's the reason why he's like, let's write the script at the end of the year. Well, that's not what we do. We write it in real time. They're 5-5 now. You have the opportunity to cement that the stamp. Had that Cincinnati 2005 moment where you clinch the bowl. You had the bowl reps with the orange jackets, in attendance, ready to congratulate them. You have that now. So if they lose the next two games, even if the Cratch 5-7 scenario, which is what we're going to call it going forward, the Cratch 5-7, even if that does come to fruition, there's going to be some disappointment.
Cratch 5-7. I love it. All right. We have some recruiting and transfer portal questions. One insider wants to know, do you foresee Schiano hitting transfer portal hard this offseason? And another one wanted an update if we have any news on the 2022 class and if playing in a bowl game might have a significant impact on that. I mean, I guess I could, because they would, obviously most of them would sign before the bowl game, Cratch. That in the portal. What do you think?
I think it could have an impact, but I tend to think that and nowadays, like these big tentpole things that used to be huge, going to a bowl game, springing a big upset, maybe don't have as much juice, with recruits as they used to. As for the transfer portal, I think they're going to be active and, they're going to try to get guys out of the portal. But I really, and I have to write this at some point in the next few weeks, I think fans need to be cautious with expecting the transfer portal. I don't think Rutgers can transfer portal its way to Big Ten prominence. I think this season is proof enough. Great transfer portal class in 2020. 2021 transfer portal class really hasn't done much of anything. I know there's been some injuries there, but Ifan Maju's been a really good defensive tackle, but Josh Youngblood hasn't made much of an impact. Who else am I forgetting, Sarge? Braswell obviously being out for the season. They've gotten a little bit out of David, the Nabulu, I think I got that right. The Temple transfer on the offensive line, he's a little bit of a project. So, look, the transfer portal, it's NFL free agency. It's B-plus players getting A-plus destinations. It's always going to be hard to get guys out there. And for the most part, every once in a while you're going to have a Justin Fields, but these guys are in the portal for a reason. It's because they couldn't play at the place they're coming from. Yeah, and if they could play at a lower level school, they're going to Alabama or Ohio State.
The bigger question for me is keeping them from going in the transfer portal.
That's good. But also the thing is, he's had, this will be 1 3/4. I won't say this first recruiting class was all his, but he had an impact on that. And then this recruiting class, so he'll have time to actually say, well, these are my players, and that he's going to have some development time. So I don't think he's going to go all crazy in the transfer portal, but like Crash said, I think we could see like an offensive lineman, maybe a defensive lineman. We could see that every year probably.
All right, this is I'm going to call this a Diane question. I love our Diane questions because she always picks something from the game that I was asking myself and do not know the answer to. I'll see if you do. You guys have an explanation for the delay of game penalty we received on the fourth quarter punt, I think she meant. The TV announcers mentioned it was partially due to the ref being in the way while the play clock was still counting down. If true, how can that be allowed? Okay. I mean, that's I don't know if you guys noticed it. You were probably typing furiously. The Big Ten telecast, if you're not aware, was an absolute cluster. You know what? They basically lost the feed for most of the second quarter. It was terrible. So I don't know if those guys were wrong, but I mean, do you know what we're talking about here?
Vaguely, but it wasn't something that, honestly, Diana, it didn't cross my radar in the building. I apologize for that. I'm sure the official was in the way, but officials have stunk since 1869. So I mean, I'm sure they got pissed off at whoever was refereeing that game too.
Yeah, I mean, when I talked to Graham Gano, his distant cousin who played in that game.
That's right. Yeah.
Shameless plug, by the way, for one of my stories last week. He even said like the referees were terrible in that 1869 game, according to his distant cousin.
Just awful. All right. Well, another question that we can't answer for Diane. Great job. All right. Let's see if there's anything more. Finally, Alex from Marlboro asked the question. I was wondering, Rutgers Nation has waited 3 years for the basketball offense to run through Paul Mulcahy. I know it's only been 2 games, but do you think the offense will go back to circulating through Gio? I mean, I know where you're coming from, Alex. I don't, though. I think they're committed to this. They like Gio off the ball. They want him to be able to, take that role. Do you agree, Sarge, that this route that they're going to stick with Paul Mulcahy now in that role for the foreseeable future?
Foreseeable future. Yes, they want Paul Mulcahy to be the true point guard. You're going to see some, when between the 3 of them, Caleb and Gio and Paul Mulcahy, all 3 of them will take turns, but for the most part, they want Paul Mulcahy to be the guy.
The problem I have in the opener, I did not watch the Merrimack game, but the opener I thought the offense was, hey, let's see if we can get Cliff an alley-oop, and if not, what are we doing here? I mean, it was really kind of shaky, and maybe the shooting was part of that. But Rutgers has not been a good shooting team for the entirety of Steve Pikiell's tenure, so that's a concern for me. All right, the final comment: it's time to roast Cratch for being horrendous, both straight up and against the spread for football games. Abysmal. That's it. That's all the reader wants to say. I mean, Sarge, is it? I mean, that's right. Bringing the heat. Is that wow? Is it time? Do you think, Sarge? Is he right? Is this commenter right that it's time?
I mean, if Brian Fonseca is joining us on the pod next week, we have the reason why. Okay.
I've not been good. No, I think that self-scouting, evaluation, there are sometimes where I think that too much information can be a problem.
Yeah.
Like going to this game, I picked Indiana because I think they're really banged up on defense. Didn't mean anything, Right. That's the thing. So, yeah.
And look, in your defense, I think Greg Schiano, if we would have had him on the pod last week and we would have said, what do you think, Greg from Piscataway, on who's going to win this game? I think he would have picked Indiana to win outright and to cover. So, in your defense.
Well, you were the only one, Sarge, to correctly pick the cover. All 4 of us incorrectly picked Indiana to win. I got at least 5 emails. I mean, one email. I mean, I love fans. Immediately, the game is over. Like the moment the game ends, there's an email. You guys need to apologize to Rutgers for your predictions.
Apologize.
I mean, could you? Guys, we don't know we can't predict the future. If we could predict the future, we would use it on something much more valuable than this. But you were the one that got it. At least got the you covered. You got the spread right, so we are tied for the lead, which means the Penn State. This is an important one, Sarge. Penn State minus. What did you get, Cratch? Minus 18.5, 18. What is it? It's a lot of points.
I think I saw minus 18. It is It is a lot of points. Look, too many points, in my opinion.
Give me the Nittany Lions preview. They look very ordinary. I mean, is that the case, or are they just playing good teams?
A little bit of both. I mean, look, I think I look back to 2018, 2019. When Penn State is not at optimal health at quarterback, whether their quarterback's dinged up or they're playing their backup, they're not a great team. I think that's one of the things that, from a outside perspective, James Franklin has not done a very good job of recruiting quarterback depth. Like, he doesn't have a backup they can turn to and not miss a beat, which obviously is tough for a lot of teams. I think they're playing good teams. I think they're a little bit disinterested. I think the other thing too with Penn State is, and we've seen this in past years, they have nothing to play for.
Right.
It's like you're going to the Outback Bowl. Like, you're kind of locked in, like, what's the point? Once you lost to Iowa and then you lost to Illinois, like, it's over. Like, show's over. Like, you're not going to the year 6. You're not going to the playoff. You're not going to win the East. You're just kind of there playing out the string.
You're not going to Southern Cal's head coach.
You're not going to, yeah, exactly. You're not going to Southern Cal's head coach. You're not going to LSU. Although I will say, if Dan Mullen gets fired at Florida, I think that could be the bailout for James Franklin.
Wow.
Because Florida, they just, why not throw money at another guy that they'll fire in 3 years?
Is that a better job, Florida over Penn State?
No, I don't think so.
Me neither.
Okay. I don't think it's a better job, but it's one of the few jobs that James Franklin can get out of Penn State. And like if James Franklin had a press conference and said, this is one of the 2 jobs I would leave for, this is a great job. Like, I would think he's not telling the truth, but at least like you could like with a straight face argue Florida is a better job. I don't think it is, but like it's not like he's going to Ball State and being like, this is a better job.
Right. All right. So -18. Who wants to go first? You want to go first, Kratz? You're talking. You said.
Yeah, I think Rutgers will cover. Yeah, I'm not going to pull the trigger on a historic upset win. I don't know if we're there yet. I mean, I did last year, and I was quickly proven wrong.
Did you pick them last year? Wow. Okay.
I was like as convinced as few things I've ever been in my life.
I love when you get convinced about something.
It beat Penn State. Yeah, it didn't work out so well. Yeah, I think they're going to cover. Like, I think it's like if it's 18, like I could see this being a 30, like a 27-10 type game, or 34-17, something like that. I do think Rutgers will cover. I think they'll play well. I think Penn State doesn't have much to play for. They're disinterested. They're banged up, all that stuff. But I will say this, like last year, I think it was very obvious that Rutgers was doing everything it could to win that game, including the two ill-fated fourth down, decisions with the Langen package. I'm intrigued to see if we get the same sort of we're throwing everything at them approach, knowing that you got the Maryland game a week after with everything, still there for you.
Sarge?
The most impressive thing that about their recent, winning 2 of the last 3 is all along we've said that Rutgers needs to beat the teams they're supposed to beat, right? They're always going to be a long shot against Michigan, against Ohio State, Wisconsin, Michigan State even, they've been an upper echelon team. Penn State's, and, we've always said that traditionally. Beat the teams that you're supposed to be on the same level as. They lost at Northwestern, but, Northwestern played in the Big Ten West, championship. They won the Big Ten West a year ago. They won at Indiana, and then they won at Illinois. And Maryland is going to be another one that's going to be a toss-up. Can they win a game they're not supposed to win, right? And that's the one thing that they haven't done yet, right? Since Greg Schiano took over. Drum roll? Can I get a drum roll?
No. Every time I make sound effects, I get in trouble on the podcast. So
they're going to win this game. They're going to win.
Oh, boy.
We just saw, and here's why. Okay?
Oh, boy. Sound the alarm. I don't need a drum roll. I need an
game.
Ambulance alarm here. I need the...
They're winning this game, guys. Folks, mark it down. They're winning the game. We just saw like a month ago, this upstart team, not supposed to, Illinois just beat them a month ago. And I know I came out of it saying, well, can Rutgers do this? And we just haven't seen it since 1988, a Rutgers team celebrating in that same fashion. That Penn State team is not, they are, for whatever reason, there's something wrong. Rutgers is, you saw Greg Schiano talking about it in the postgame. He never does that where he's looking ahead. There's always that 24-hour rule where, he's not looking ahead.
Yeah,
he addressed it right away.
Good point.
They're winning this game, guys. 2017 Rutgers, you want to score? 2017 Rutgers is going to be, tough. They're not going to out, it's not going to be a shootout. They're going to win the game.
Wow.
By the way, real quick, the look on Noah Vedril's face in Bloomington when he got asked about the ball and he gave the talking points answer, and Sarge's like, no, like if you go 1-0 next week, that meshes with bowl eligibility. And Noah has had his smile like, you got us. Like, you're right, but I gotta keep saying the talking points.
Yep, he's like 1-0, 1-0. Well, if you go 1-0, you do go to a bowl game. So can you answer my question the way it was asked?
I wish I could feel as confident as you, Sarge. That's why I say there's just Penn State is just so much better up front. This is the problem. This was a problem against Wisconsin. It wasn't like all these skills. They just got dominated on the 2 lines of scrimmage, and I just can't imagine that's not going to happen again. The Michigan game was close. All these games are close. Penn State's not very explosive. I don't know about the 18. I go back and forth on that. I might just go like a 24-3 type of game just to make it interesting for picking purposes, because I know people are really, are curious about how we're picking these games. I just can't see them pulling this one off. I mean, it's about the line of scrimmage, and they just will not be able to block Penn State up front.
So folks, a little inside baseball here, but, about 8 minutes ago in the Indiana game, we're talking, and I noted to Politi that now we're tied. 2 weeks ago, we're tied in his picks, and Politi, I think the text that he said was Sarge will F it up, and he'll pick Rutgers to beat Penn State. So here you go.
Exactly. I could see it coming a mile away. You're the guy standing there. You're the guy. If you had like a pile of chips on the roulette wheel, you were the guy like, I could win more money if I'm going to put it all on black and see what happens. And that thing's coming up double zeros every time with you. All right. There's a reaction. I don't know. I mean, you could be right, though. It wouldn't really surprise me as much as you think it would.
I mean, I just think that the way they're playing, the how Greg Schiano's, approaching it. And again, we just saw a month ago, this team that no one expected, go and Rutgers beat Illinois. So, I know Cratch forgot, earlier where he said that Illinois beat Rutgers, but we were at that game too, a couple of weeks ago. Rutgers beat Illinois. So, I have reason for it. Again, I think it's going to be a rock fight, and we're going to, but again, I think
that was a very sly backhanded shot at me. Sorry. I didn't forget. I just got, there's a lot going on here. Okay. We got sports.
You did. No, and you know what? You've literally been up for 24 hours straight.
Yeah, you spent 25 minutes trying to figure out if South Alabama's going to get to 6-6.
Okay. Good stuff. All right. What else, guys? We've got bad news about the field hockey team. I was watching this game on the Big Ten Network feed. And just a disappointing performance. I think they would be disappointed by it. I'm not going to pretend I know anything that was happening. I'm still very confused as to why they stopped play all the time and just give the ball to the other team. Lost to Liberty, though. I mean, that's a bad loss, right, Cratch? We can't, if we're going to.
I don't think it's not a good loss, obviously, but I wouldn't say it's not like, it's Chaminade over Virginia here. Liberty, it plays in the Big East for field hockey as an affiliate member, and they were 9th in the RPI.
Okay, well, so not that bad, I guess.
Probably, yeah. This was like a reasonable. Should a Big Ten team beat Liberty? Yes, but this was, especially one. It's ranked number 1 in the country. But this was a very normal, I think, Elite 8 matchup that you got. I agree with you. Like, it just seems to me like sometimes the officials, it's like, oh, this looks like it could be exciting or there could be action happening. Yeah. That's not right. Let's blow the whistle and send it the other way. I really feel like sometimes if it looks funny, just blow the whistle and give the ball to the team.
Midway through the second overtime, I was prepared to drive down to Piscataway and say, hey, Rutgers, I've got a suggestion. If you try to shoot the ball at the goal, it might go in. That's where I was. I was at this thing. Had they considered that maybe a good strategy for this sport? Again, I don't understand it. I'm a novice here, but it didn't seem like they were actually, trying.
I think the toughest thing for Rutgers is you go down 1-0, you get the 2 goals, you take the lead, and then to give up the late goal to force overtime, and then to lose in shootouts. I mean, everyone hates penalty shots. So really difficult loss. But hey, Big Ten tournament champions, tremendous season. So they accomplished a lot. They're part of the lore of the athletic department forever.
All right. Anything else? Well, women's basketball, no C. Vivian Stringer, no problem. 3-0, Sarge. Where are we? So we didn't talk about the official decision last week. We recorded the podcast before they made the announcement that C. Vivian Stringer would not coach this year. But where we stand on this, Sarge? I mean, is there any chance of development might come before the end of the season where we get some clarity on what's going on?
No.
Okay, that's good. All right, there you go.
I want to hear it, but no, it's basically, if there was any way she was going to retire beforehand, she would have retired, and she took the leave of absence. That's her right. And there all the things that you wrote about, the direction, the future, how are they going to kind of build long term? All those things that you wrote about the next day. I got to tell you, there are people inside inside Rutgers all agreed with, but yet it's we always said this, that it was going to be hard. If she wants to keep on going, and I've talked to her, I've quoted her as saying that she can't imagine doing anything else. So it's always going to be hard. Pat Hobbs isn't the first AD who has struggled to have a plan and have her stick to it. That's a problem. I mean, he actually thought that he did with the contract and making her an ambassador after she gives up coaching, and she has no intentions of giving up the whistle and not coaching again. So,
now we'll say this though, sorry, just one thing that she said to me. I mean, I talked to her like April 17th and said, and she gave that same quote. I can't imagine. I don't have golf clubs. I can't imagine doing anything other than coach. I mean, by all accounts, she left the building a couple of days later.
Yeah.
It's just, that's a terrible look. It's a bad look.
That's the thing that if you're, and again, COVID is a tricky thing, and staying healthy and all that other stuff is tricky. But yeah, the timing of it is bad.
All right, what else do we got? Anything else, Cratch? What are we missing?
Women's soccer.
Yeah,
first round NCAA win over Bucknell. They move on, so I think there's going to be the way I think they'll host 2 games potentially this coming weekend. So they do move on in the NCAA tournament and move a step closer to getting back to the College Cup and potentially contending for a national title. I think that's wrestling swept the quad down at North Carolina. They're 6-0. They're rolling, so they're off, and then they're going to have their first kind of marquee match of the season. November 27th at the Prudential Center. They're going to wrestle North Carolina and Hofstra. Don't know how many people will be there because obviously you've got a pretty big football game at some point that day. We should potentially get a kickoff time today, or they might 6-day option it. So a lot going on there. So yeah, we're kind of in that super busy period, but before we know it, things are going to kind of slow down, and it's going to be all winter sports.
I got one. Guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you got?
So, no one cares about the new media setup, but it is different now. We're not allowed on the floor. The old media setup was down on the floor. Now we're up in we're on top of we're basically on top of the roof now. I mean, it's not good. The new media setup isn't good, but no one really cares about our plight. I will say this. Steve Politi was the first person to buy a Jersey Mike's subs after they donated.
How about that? Yes,
$28 million. The first men's basketball game. He was the first one online. 6:00, basically at 5:40. He was out there with trying to order it, and then he got it at 6:00. He was the first one. He paid for my sub. It wasn't good, and I like Jersey Mike's subs. I'm not a food critic, but I do like Jersey Mike's subs. The problem is, they wrap it up and they I don't know what they're gonna have to do, and we should dedicate a full podcast on our suggestions on this. I think fans would love to hear this, but it was, the bread was cold. They had it in the refrigerator, and it just wasn't. If this is what you're trying to do to kind of advertise and get people to kind of keep, I don't have a whole lot of hope for Mike subs long term, because if that's your impression, if the 8,000 fans come away thinking this is your product, it wasn't fresh. It wasn't all the good things about Mike subs. It wasn't good. So,
I didn't expect this.
Any thoughts?
I didn't expect this flamethrower to come at the end of the podcast. I made a mistake. I ordered poorly. I got the Philly cheesesteak, which was not. You had the problem with your bread was cold. Mine was just warm when you want it to be hot. That was my mistake. I would try again.
Cratch,
I'm not going to destroy the entire chain based on one sandwich before the Rutgers Lehigh game, as you just did after a game. Rutgers, $28 million. Pat, can you imagine Pat Hobbs is going to get a call tomorrow in his office? We're getting killed on a podcast. This poor guy finally negotiates. The building's been there since 1976 with no name on. Finally gets $28 million. I just destroyed the entire company based on one cold cup.
It was soggy. It just wasn't good. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Did they have forks and knives at the rack when you guys were there at the Jersey Mike's Arena? All right. I guess I'll tell. This is pretty funny. So I covered the women's basketball game the night before, and I had the media set up, and it had good media dinner and everything. But I just couldn't find a plastic fork and knife. So I said, okay, no worries. Let me go down to the concourse. So I go to the concourse. I go, hey, you guys got forks and knives? They're like, no, we don't. And it was very short. No, we don't. Okay. So I go over to the Dippin' Dots lady. She's got a spoon. I'm like, okay, I can make do. You can eat mac and cheese with a spoon. Green beans, a little bit difficult. Chicken, you can kind of, get in there. So anyway, so I get back to my press seat and I look down and Dom Savino, who's all over the place for BTN Plus and Rutgers in stadium host, he's got his meal. He's got a spoon too. I'm like, okay, he did the same thing. Mark Peterson starts to walk up to the radio booth. He's got his thing with a spoon too. And I was like, we're all sitting here at the rack eating chicken with a spoon.
Should have gotten some Dippin' Dots, the ice cream in the future.
I probably should. I probably should have done that. So, but hey, look, not this problem. The Jersey Mike's Arena really hasn't had a big crowd in 2 years, so it's still night opening. But I just thought that was kind of funny that all three of us came to the same conclusion of let's go get a spoon from the Dippin' Dots lady.
Love it. All right, good stuff. Behind the scenes look at our glamorous lives as sports writers at the Jersey Mike's Arena. All right, that's it. Let's start off here. We'll be back next week to talk about as Keith Sargent predicts, historic Rutgers victory over Penn State. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Devco. Thanks to everybody, Rutgers Insider, who subscribes. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Rutgers Rant. To participate in the conversation and receive live updates about the Scarlet Knights directly to your phone, sign up at NJ.com/insider.
You haven't heard enough from me yet, huh? Steve Politti here for one last thank you to this episode's sponsor, New Brunswick Development Corporation, and to listeners like you who make it all the way to the end of the show. We'll see you again soon.